Okay, good morning. We are going to start our lesson for today on positivity. These are, a couple of stories to reframe our experience, to be happy. Okay. So first of all, the class is titled "Oy or Joy: The Ultimate Cure." So let's start off with the story. In 1977, it was Shmini Atzeret. The most joyous day on the calendar was Chabad headquarters, 770 Eastern Parkway. And Shmini Atzeret, our beloved Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, had a massive heart attack in the middle of the dancing, in the middle of Hakafot, dancing around with the Torah, back and forth. The Rebbe had a massive heart attack. For 5 weeks, the world prayed anxiously for the recovery of the Rebbe. There was a Chicago-based cardiologist, Dr. Ira Weiss, who flew into New York specially to serve as one of the Rebbe's lead physicians. And he said the fact that the Rebbe returned to public life 38 days later on Rosh Chodesh Kislev, which is celebrated, by the way, till today in the world of Chabad as an incredibly joyous day, is nothing short of a miracle. But he had extensive, a heart attack. So what happened was, as soon as the Rebbe had an attack, chest pain, the jam-packed synagogue quickly emptied. Some of the congregants even broke the windows to let in some fresh air. And when the synagogue was half empty, the Rebbe said, "Give me a Torah." And to the shock of everybody around, the Rebbe began to dance with the Torah after he had suffered already a massive attack. And throughout the entire time, the Rebbe refused to go to the hospital. The Rebbe was in his room upstairs in the synagogue, and they kind of made that room into a synagogue. One of the local doctors, Dr. Feldman, he says the following story. He said when he first heard the Rebbe had an attack, so he came, he was one of the physicians on call, and Dr. Feldman reported to the Rebbe that some of the Hasidim were still dancing downstairs. It was Simchat Torah. Some of them were still dancing. And the Rebbe looked at him, and this made the Rebbe very, very happy. And Dr. Feldman said he used the term Shira Vezimra, which means song and joy. And when he said that to the Rebbe, it made the Rebbe very, very, very happy. And over the next few days and weeks, whenever he used the word Shira Vezimra, it made the Rebbe extremely happy. In fact, the Rebbe instructed that the Hasidim should dance. So the Hasidim were crying because they were upset. They were sad for the Rebbe who has a heart attack, but they were dancing because they were instructed by the Rebbe to dance. And this was like the Rebbe's motto in life: dance, be happy, all the time be happy. So Dr. Feldman continues. He says a couple of years later, it was Simchat Torah, and the Rebbe's back, and he's healthy again, thank God. And during the middle of the Hakafot, the Rebbe motions to him to come next to him. And the shul was jam-packed. It was like very hard to get there, but the students kind of pushed Rabbi Feldman. And when he gets to the Rebbe said to him, "How do you like my medicine?" And Dr. Feldman realized that the Rebbe was referring to, of course, the Shira V'Zimra, the idea of being happy. And he told the Rebbe, yes, Simcha is the best medicine. 14 years later, in 1992, when the Rebbe suffered a stroke when he was in the oil, in the Lubavitcher Rebbe, in the oil in Queens by his father-in-law, and he came back in a wheelchair into his room. When he saw Dr. Feldman, he said to him, Shira V'Zimra. And Dr. Feldman thought he never heard. He said again, Shira V'Zimra. And this was the Rebbe's idea, like always, always, always be happy, sing and dance, no matter what the situation. Now, what role is joy in Judaism? So, of course, it says in the Torah, "Ivdu et Hashem simcha," serve God with joy. We say it every day in our davening from King David. And it says, Moses says in the Torah that all the curses come upon us, "Tachat asher lo avadat et Hashem elokecha b'simcha v'tuv levav," because you didn't serve God with joy, enough joy, so to speak. But until, like in 1801, when the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Tanya, was incarcerated, it actually said one of the accusing arguments against him was that he was introducing a new religion. Because until then, yes, when the Torah says be joy, it was like, okay, in special occasions, special times, but not the whole time. So they kind of accused the Alter Rebbe of making a new religion, which is be happy, not just when you're praying, but at all times. And this is something the Baal Shem Tov and Chassidus introduced into the world, that you have to be happy 24 hours a day, no matter what, no matter who, no matter what. The Baal Shem Tov said a Jew must strive to be joyful at all times. And this is like the paradigm shift, but there's a beautiful story in connection with this. The Mittler Rebbe, the son of the Alter Rebbe, so he had a group of Hasidim which he had formed called a Kapella, which was a choir, was his own like choir. And then there was another group that was trained to perform tricks on horseback. And he had a son, Reb Nachum, who was actually one of these horsemen. So the Mittler Rebbe used to call these people to perform on special occasions. One day, it was a random day, the Mittler Rebbe instructed that both of these groups perform. And he was watching from the window. It was very, very unusual. It never happened before, such a thing. But they started performing, the singing and then the horseback tricks. In the middle of the tricks, Reb Nachum, the Mittler Rebbe's son, suddenly falls off his horse. So right away, the Mittler Rebbe was informed that his son was in grave danger, and the Rebbe didn't even notice. He said, "Continue with the joy, continue with the simcha." And later on, when a doctor was summoned, they realized that Reb Nachum's injury wasn't as severe as they thought, but he did have a broken leg. But that's it. So they asked the Rebbe, "I don't understand. Why did you tell us to continue with the joy after your son was injured? We didn't know how little the injury was. Why did you instruct us to continue to be joyful?" So the Rebbe explained, he said, "Well, you should have asked me, why did I ask the horsemen and the choir to perform in the first place? It's a regular weekday." And the Rebbe explained, "Today there was a harsh decree in heaven against my son. There was a grave accusation, and the prosecuting angels in Shamayim in heaven were going to prosecute. And I realized that the only way to counter this decree was simcha, joy. You see, joy works wonders against these evil decrees. So I therefore called the choir to sing and the horse riders to gladden everybody. And what happened is the joy was able to temper down the decree, and the only thing that happened was my son hurt his leg." So what's incredible about the story is that these stories are not just stories. They are meant to teach us a way of living, to teach us that when we are suffering, going through the coronavirus, and we're stuck and we isolated at home, and we're so frustrated at our leaders who are doing everything wrong, and we're like, "Oh my God, what is going on over here?" We have to be happy. Serve God with joy. Summon the joy from deep, deep, deep inside of us. Just be happy. As it says, Simcha poretzet gedel. Simcha breaks down all barriers. As the Baal Shem Tov taught us, if tears are the key to open up the heavenly gates, joy absolutely demolishes them. Simcha poretzet gedel. That kind of poretzet is like it breaks through all the boundaries of heaven. When you are joyful, it just breaks everything down. Somebody once came into the Rebbe and said, "Rebbe, I'm depressed." And the Rebbe said, "Take your depression and shove it out the window. I want happiness. Just be happy." And once during a private audience with the Chassid, the Rebbe actually explained how this works. So he took out a book of the Zohar, the Kabbalah, and he read to him the following. He says like this: the Zohar says, "Tachazi," which is come and observe. See, the world is always ready to receive the spiritual flow that comes from above, right? That's how the world works. We receive the energy from above. So the upper world provides in accordance with the state below. This is what it says in the Zohar. So if the state below, if Jews below, if the world below is joyous, is happy, so correspondingly, abundance, blessings, flow from above. However, if the state below, if we are below here sad and depressed, then correspondingly the flow of blessings is constricted. So therefore said the Rebbe to this chassid, serve God with joy, because human joy and optimism draw a corresponding joy above. You want to end the coronavirus, you want to end the pandemic, you want to end sorrows. Simcha, be happy, be joyous. The joy will break down all barriers, all boundaries, all limitations. Every possible thing will be ended through this joy. It's very hard sometimes because we have every reason to be frustrated and to be upset and to be, just to like, what am I doing this for? It's so hard. Life is so difficult. But this is where we get the idea that we simply need to be happy. I wish everybody here that you should be happy, simply be happy, just for no reason whatsoever, no reason at all. Just be happy. As we just read in our davening, today is Rosh Chodesh Sivan. We said the Hallel. Today is an especially joyful day. At the end of the week, we will receive the Torah again on Shavuot. So today, Rosh Chodesh Sivan is especially joyous day. I wish everybody have a wonderful day, wonderful Chodesh, wonderful week, and we should have Mashiach right now.